right. Good morning again. All right. As we continue in this Lenten journey, as I mentioned, we are walking through each of these commands of God as they were given to us. And the kind of the spirit of the commandments is that God was giving to his people his heart. And showing them, this is who I am, these are my will for you, this is who I made you to be. And we as his people are meant to allow his heart to influence and change our own so that our hearts reflect his. And so we're going to be looking at this commandment of honoring the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. We're going to look at what it meant for the Israelites and then really make that connection. What does it mean for us today? And what are the promises that God is making? And how do we enter into those promises? So the word Sabbath comes from a verb meaning to cease, stop, or desist. And really the spirit of Sabbath is linked to Psalm 46:10. Psalm 46:10 says, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." So Psalm 46:10 is literally stop, cease, desist, and know or acknowledge that I am God. So the Sabbath day was given to the Israelites as a holy or set apart day where they would celebrate God's activity on their behalf as his people. The actions of God, the person of God, the fact that he alone is the one who will protect and provide for them. So it's sort of the understanding like, yeah, go work for 6 days. So let's go into like a farming metaphor. Go prep the ground. Go till it up. Go get it ready, go plant the seed. But on that seventh day, I want you to acknowledge that I alone am the one who can make that seed grow. You can do all the work, but I alone am God. I alone am in control. Acknowledge, celebrate who I am and what I have done for you. And so for the Israelites, it was a day where they would celebrate and demonstrate their trust and their faith and sort of a submission to who God is and what he has done on their behalf. Remember, for a long time, they were enslaved to the Egyptian people. And the Egyptians had many gods, but one of the things that was glaringly evident up until the final straw of the Israelites' time in Egypt is they had no rest. No rest. In fact, the Pharaoh had doubled the workload that was put upon them. There was no rest. So can you tap into like God's heart, his love, and why he's giving this? It's such an amazing way. Like if I would paraphrase this commandment, like in my own words, it would be like you were enslaved to Egypt and they gave you no rest, but now you're my people and I'm commanding you, trust me, love me, rest in me, and know I will be your protection and your provision. So the Israelites the Egyptians gave them no rest. And here God is literally revealing, like, I want you to rest. Now, what comes to your mind when you hear that word rest? I mean, I got a certain spot in my mind, like my spot on the couch. Some game on. I like the PGA. It's calming. I don't know. There's something about that tone, hey, friends, that just puts you right out, right? I always turn on some game if I'm going to take an afternoon nap because I need to know how long I was sleeping for, right? Anybody fall asleep on the third hole, you wake up on the 12th, right when it's getting good, you're like, that was perfect. I think a lot of times we associate rest with sleep. Right? So with napping, maybe a vacation, get in the hammock or find that beach chair and getting just some needed sleep. And I think there's absolutely part of that. But what God is really leaning into is there's also a weariness, a tiredness that life can bring to us that even sleep can't fix. Anyone ever been through a hard time where you wake up and you're in just as much turmoil as when you fell asleep? If you haven't, you've had a real cush life. But there is a certain kind of weariness, a certain kind of angst that life can bring, a heaviness in our soul. And that's the rest that God is speaking of. Now, the spirit of Sabbath day and the command of God to his people to rest in him is still upon us as Christians and as followers of Jesus, but it's a very different and I would say a much deeper way, right? So as Christians, I have to give you the reminder that we have been freed from the law that was given to the people. Meaning the how you do it or the what you do. This is how Paul says it. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food or drink or festivals or the new moon or a Sabbath. These are a shadow of the things to come, but say it with me, substance belongs to Christ. Remember that the Jewish people had laws around everything. Everything. Right? From what they ate to what they drank, to when they ate it, to when they drank it, to festivals and how you did festivals, to Sabbath and how you did Sabbath. They had a whole book of laws. I mean, they were given 10. And it's amazing how 10 commandments of God became thousands. Right? Isn't that the human nature? To take, this is the command, and then and they had all these ways of not why we do it, but like how we do it and what we do. And there were all these different things. And Paul is speaking to certain Christians at this time who were acting as sort of religious umpires, going around with like this proverbial religious whistle, calling the foul on anything they did not deem appropriate as a Christian. Right? It's kind of like the Pharisees when Jesus was walking in the field and his disciples started eating the grains of wheat and they come out blowing that religious whistle like, inappropriate, no, you're breaking the rule. And Jesus is like he invented the Sabbath day. And so he's like you're off. You're off. And so really in that same spirit, this is Paul speaking into that the Sabbath day is not about a specific day. Right? You even hear this in today's world. People, even Christians today will be like, is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? Can you make it up for what you want? What is it? But what Paul is saying is that the regulations, the law, what people do is a shadow of the real or the true reality, the fullness of why we do what we do. And for us, it's the person of Jesus. Now, this was some, 2,000 years ago. You would think as a Christian church, Big C Christian church worldwide, we would have really kind of like matured beyond needing this text. And yet, so much of my life is built around helping Christians realize, one, that it's not about them, and two, that it's not about their preferences. It's amazing how much energy goes into that. I'm going to teach you a word, and part of I really think my calling on my life for God's people is to bring them into a freedom around this very topic. So let's do it together, shall we? Are you with me? Are you awake? All right. It's really weird. I can kind of see your faces, and then when there's no nonverbal reactions, it's like I lost them. All right, play along here. And I want you to suspend the belief that you know exactly how life is supposed to be. Okay, I just need you to suspend the belief that the way you're doing it is absolutely crushing it. And if Jesus was living in your flesh, he'd be living your life exactly the way you're living it. He'd care about the same things. He'd be going after the same things. He would be looking at the same things on your phone. Like he would be all about that, okay? I need you just to suspend that belief. And I'm going to bring you into a word, and it's an old word, and just say it with me. It's adiaphora. Adiaphora is an old word that literally means neither commanded nor forbidden. Over 90% of what we do as a Christian church falls into the realm of adiaphora, right? So I'll use an example. I'll pull one example into what we're talking about. So a lot of it pertains to worship. People tend to have a lot of opinions around worship. So the Bible Jesus has commanded us to worship. And the Bible commands us. He says, don't leave your hearts at home. So he says, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. So that's a part of worship. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. So there's definitely a sense of engaging it, right? But what is an appropriate musical instrument? Could I beatbox? No. You know what we wear, how we worship, right? Now, this might be teeing it up because you're down in the Family Life Center today, right? But even then, I have found, why does come as you are mean like pajama pants? Could you wear a suit? I remember talking to a pastor one time, and he said that he planted a church, and it was, kind of what you wear. I don't know, like what I'm wearing. And but for Christmas one year, he wore a suit, full-on suit, whole thing. And he actually had someone write him an email that was like, I thought we were a come as you are church. And he goes, we are. And they replied, and he kind of got after his church on this. He goes, how dare you? Right? How dare you? Right? The very same thing that they probably felt judged with at some point in their life, people wearing suits, looking down on them for wearing something else. Then they flip the script. I have noticed this in the contemporary world, where all of a sudden, well, now a guitar, a piano, or something like that, that's worshiping God in spirit and in truth, not that organ traditional stuff. That's old school. And I go, how dare you? Generations of Christians have been brought up to the worship of God. I'm a byproduct of generations who have had their hearts stirred by divine worship or worship in a hymnal or an organ. But that doesn't also mean that that's the only way you worship. Like, the more I travel, I'm also realizing that other cultures are flabbergasted that we can worship in an hour. They do not understand. Right? Because when you travel, like in Jamaica, if you go down to El Salvador, you go down to Honduras, really anywhere else other than first world nations, they're just, worship is sort of a daily thing. And it really throws them off that we don't share food. When I tell them about our worship and how we do worship, they look at me like, that's it? Because see, for them, worship is about community. and spending the day with community. And it's not just bowing the knee to efficiency. But in the West, we like efficiency. And I can't go beyond efficiency. Even right now, it's like, See, to suspend the belief that we have it all figured out frees you to the reality that there's lots of people. And there's lots of people that are going about life, and there's lots of people that are going about following Jesus that's different than you. And that's okay. It's okay. Right? You don't have to like all the food, but you don't have to spend your life trying to convince them that they shouldn't like the food. Too many people are so bound up trying to convince other people that the way they're doing it shouldn't be right because it's not their preference. And I'm here to free you that not everyone's like you. So why would you be the thing? Now, if you're going to go to bat for something, it's in the Christian world, we should be about the person of Jesus Christ. And if there's anything in our lives that is not reflected in the person of Jesus, now it's time to change. And now we should have an opinion. But when it comes to the greater culture, our number one concern as a Christian should be, do they know that Jesus Christ died for them? Do they know he rose again for them? Do they know his blood was spilt for them? If they don't know that, then what is the point of having an opinion about how they're living? Like, why would I care? And why would we expect people to be living as a passionate Jesus follower who don't know about Jesus or don't have the power of the Holy Spirit? See, it's this flip-flopped level of expectation, is what I've noticed by a lot, and me too, and I'm just convicted as well, where we have this low bar of expectation of what it means to be a Christian, but then we got this high bar of expectation for how people get in. And shouldn't it be flip-flopped? Shouldn't we have a low expectational bar, meaning we're inviting come, anybody to cross over, but then for what it means to follow Jesus, let's raise that bar to his expectation. Let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food or drink or with regard to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath. These are shadow of things to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. This is important because for us here today, we're not bound to the law of the Sabbath. But we have been freed to embrace what the Sabbath truly is. And that is Jesus Christ is your Sabbath day. So the invitation of Jesus now on every Christian is this: come to me, all of you who are heavy laden, all of you who labor, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and what? Say it louder. In order to learn something from someone else, you have to have suspended the belief you know everything. Could you imagine that the Lord of life, Jesus Christ himself, might have something, one or two things to teach you about how he designed life to be lived? Could you imagine that? Jesus says, come to me. All who labor and heavy laden, take my yoke. That's his teaching upon you. Learn from me. I'm gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy. My burden is light. See, the invitation of Jesus echoes Psalm 46:10, which is, come, be still, and know I am God. Sabbath, cease from your efforts of trying to gain God's favor. You have God's favor. You have found his favor. He loves you. He proved it in the cross. So cease from trying to jump through the hoops and all the religious red tape and trying to be a good little Christian boy and girl. It's like, stop. Stop. You've been freed to now make it about him. He says, cease and desist from your efforts of trying to win the world's favor. A lot of people, it's like trying to win the thumbs ups. Look at my family. Look at my kids. Look at our vacation. Look how big I am. Look how strong I am. Look how beautiful I am. Look, world, look. Approve me, world, approve me. And it's like, what are you doing? You're approved. God approves you. What does it gain a person if they were to get the approval of the world, but you have to sacrifice your soul in the process? So Sabbath, cease, desist. Sabbath from thinking that you got to do it all, that you have to be in control, that if you don't protect and if you don't provide it, if you're not doing it, then who's going to do it for me? And you Sabbath, you cease. You know, as I look at my own life and as I look at the lives of others, there is a counterbalance thing that is happening right now where what I notice more than anything, I think as a culture we're just out of balance, because the number one effect that I just see on people, we're tired, aren't we? Anybody labor and heavy laden? We're tired. We're a tired people. Our culture is tired. I see it on the faces of parents. I see it on the faces of grandparents. We're just tired. We're heavy laden. There's no lack of work to be done or lack of heaviness the world throws our way from the complexities of kids and schedules and careers and politics and world affairs and illnesses and finances and just bad moods of other people. The list just goes on and on. And if you think of it in this sort of balancing thing, that weight just sort of can easily kind of flip things out of balance where I'm heavy. It's complex. We're tired, we're worn out, but we're tired in a way that sleep can't fix. It's deeper in us. It's not balanced. And the weightier that life gets, there needs to be something that's even weightier on the other side to balance the scale. And the only thing that God says in his word that can balance that scale is the glory of God. The word glory in Hebrew means giving something weight. It's a weightiness. So if I say I glory in something, meaning I'm putting weight into it, I'm putting that it's heavy. And Jesus says that when you place me at the center, my glory, my presence, when it's my word, when I'm the one at the center, then this new thing starts to happen in our lives that, frankly, I think our culture is just so hungry for, but they don't know how to get there. But it starts seeping in, and Jesus says, my peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives. In me, your hearts don't have to be troubled, and you don't have to be afraid. Jesus promises, I'm not going to give to you as the world gives. You'll find peace, a shalom, a centeredness. All right, here's the convicting part. You ready? This is on me too, because anytime we interact with the heart of God, there's aspects of conviction that happen. All right, but here's the convicting part. If we're tired and we're worn out, We're anxious and we're stressed and we're worn thin, or we're fearful. That is a life that is not at peace with Jesus Christ. Even if you're a Christian, there's aspects of your life where you're faking it. You're not submitted to him. The fruit of one's life will show. I'm not saying that you won't have times of fear or times of stress. These are times where then we as Christians, you bring that back to him. It's where I then come to me, as he says, come to me. So I bring those to him. But if it's like a day-to-day perpetual thing, that's the outcome of a life not at peace, and that is not in Sabbath rest with their Creator. I know that's convicting, but it is literally the largest blind spot of our culture. The largest blind spot is because the weightiness of this world is not met with a corresponding spiritual disciplines that invite the presence of Jesus to counterbalance. It's sort of like consuming too much processed food, but if you don't have the workout regimen on the backside, your body will start to show. You know what I'm saying? The weightiness of this world is too much that if it's not counterbalanced by the presence of Jesus through very real spiritual disciplines of prayer and Sabbathing his word and Sabbathing in community and being with others that uphold us, your life just boom, it goes out of bounds and it will show. So how do we enter into this place of rest? First off, we have to understand that we as Christians have been freed to enter into Sabbath rest. We've been freed to do this, and we've been empowered that by the power of the Holy Spirit, we can say no to the things that are hijacking and stealing your peace and your rest. What are things in your life that hijack your perspective and steal your peace? Like if you could name them. Like maybe for some of us, we just give way too much consumption of world politics, news, and the problems of the world. Like I know they want it to be like 24/7. Doesn't mean you have to consume it 24/7. Or maybe for some of us, it's our relationship with our phones and social media and the digital side of life. On Friday, my wife and I, we got to go on a date. It was awesome. We try to practice no phone policy on our dates. And so if you bring your phone out, there could be a steak knife flying. So we're sitting there talking. It's a nice restaurant. We're having a great time. And there was this table to my left, and it had 3 teen boys, and then there was like dads and maybe a grandpa on the other side. And we were sitting here looking for the entire meal. 5 out of 6 of them were on their phone the whole time. And then there was one guy in the middle who I bet is the one who put the whole thing together, and he looked so sad. Because when I think going out to eat with people that I love, I think of laughter, I think of sharing stories, I think of this community around. Otherwise, why would just stay at home and make pizza and watch TV? All the kids were watching like basketball and stuff. But you know that there was someone at that table that like, I want the real stuff with the people I love. And then this thing hijacked them away from that table. There is a whole level to that dinner that they could have experienced. A whole different set of enjoyment and togetherness and really kind of that quality of life stuff that those phones hijacked out of that dinner. I'm not saying that Satan invented cell phones, but I am telling you he's using them. And if you look at standard practice of our society, Jesus is losing to the iPhone. He's losing to social media. He's losing to YouTube. He's losing to video games. He's losing to sports. You just have to run the numbers. And we as Christians need to really look in the mirror and say, am I taking Jesus at his word? Is he at the center? Does my life reflect a life of peace? A life of rest? You've been invited. And I pray that the spiritual disciplines of life wouldn't be another law, but they'd be an invitation that we get to Sabbath with our God in prayer. We get to talk to him. We get to Sabbath in his word where we get to hear from him. We get to Sabbath with our family and friends with undistracted focus. We can Sabbath with our God in worship and music. There's so many ways because Jesus is our Sabbath day. And he's available anytime, anywhere, any place. He's constantly looking at you saying, come to me. Come to me. Let me be your rest. May you allow Jesus to be your Sabbath. May you cease and desist and find your rest in him and him alone. Amen. Amen.